Clemson wins 6 straight ACC championships, then goes 1 for 3 in the last 3 years as far as the ACC title. But yet they won 11 games, 10 games in 2021 and 9 games in 2023 when they didn't win the ACC. Dabo doesn't use the portal like people want him to. And so all of that said, people got Clemson as if they've fallen off the cliff. I mean, let's talk about it today. Clemson football season preview for 2024.
Yeah, the fanatic. Where we keep it 100, keep it real. That's the only way we know how to be. Talking that sports talk. You know what I'm saying? Straight out of South Carolina. Upstate, A64. Yeah, the FANATTIC. The fanatic where we keep it OG. We talking sports, so I call what
Welcome into another episode of the Fanatic on the Fanatic Sports Network. I'm your host, Coach I. That's right, man. If you wanted some college football, it's that time. You know, we take a little hiatus in the off season, but we are back, ramping up for our Saturday night snap count, our live football coverage of like a wrap-up show that we do during the season, but we starting it early this year. We got the ACC preview coming up on Saturday, June the 22nd. We start off, that's a conference preview, but we're going to do a couple of team previews. And as you see, we're here to talk a little Clemson, man. So, I mean, let's get into it, man. And before we do, I'm glad you're here. So if you're here, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe, man. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers, man, trying to get there. And we appreciate each and every one of you, man. Let's talk about Clemson, man. 2024. Like I said, man, people, like I've been seeing a lot of, it's list season, man. I see when I see the list for coaches and stuff. Listen, I'm not a Dabo fan. I'm not a Dabo hater. I'm in the middle. I mean, I think he's a good coach, but I see these lists, man. I've seen some lists that had Dabo like, outside the top 10 and as low as like 17, 18 or something. I just think that's crazy, bro. Like, think about it, man. They in 2021, they didn't win the ACC, but they still won 10 games. They were 10-3. And one of those losses was to the eventual national champion Georgia. And they kept it, and they held them to one touchdown. Then they came back in 2022, won the ACC, and then last year they went 8-4 in the regular season, then ended up beating Kentucky in the bowl game. And I know it seems like Clemson has fallen off, but I mean, yeah, fallen off by their standards. But I mean, what program out there outside of the elite groups wouldn't want, 10, 11, then 9 wins? I think Dabo's still in the thick of things, man. And honestly, I still think Clemson should be the favorite team to beat in the ACC. I mean, let's start on offense, man. I mean, what everybody's waiting on is to see if Cade can get it together. I guess what we would say in between the ears, watching film, being able to recognize coverages pre and post snap. I think that's some of his, I would say biggest areas of concern. Physically, he can do it all. I mean, he can make all the throws. He can throw intermediate, he can throw long, he can run, and this year is looking like they'll have the weapons to do so. So, you had Tyler Brown, the freshman, come on the scene last year, Antonio Williams to be healthy at wide receiver. And then you got incoming freshmen, Wesco and TJ Moore. Hopefully one of those guys can be the deep threat consistently that Cade needs, not just down the field, but actually catching the ball. I mean, they look to be those guys. So we'll see. I mean, it's always nice to have freshmen come in and contribute majorly, but to count on them going into this season, that's where, you kind of wonder how that's going to turn out. I mean, they lose Will Shipley, but they still have Maffa. I've always said since high school, since they were in high school, that Will Shipley was the better overall football player, but I always felt like Maffa was the better running back. And I think that held true last year, and he was their leading rusher, if I'm not mistaken. Now, questions on offense. For me, it's always the offensive line. Can they block for Cade, keep him upright? What's crazy is Clemson has had some good offensive lines, but I don't know about like great when you think about the run that they are in the midst of and having and have been on, winning championships and conference titles and stuff. They just haven't had an elite offensive line like that. Again, the wide receiver deep threat, who can be the consistent deep threat? It's just one thing to catch a pass or two here and there, but who can be the consistent deep threat for Cade? And then for me, it's offensive coordinator Garrett Riley. I mean, they made a big splash hire him coming over from TCU and things of that nature. I thought he was good. I've never thought he was the best coordinator in the nation. I think he, top 10 to 15 or so. And maybe that's just him getting, I guess, used to the Clemson players. We'll see it. Second year is normally the biggest jump, when you talk about progress wise. Can he get in his bag? Can he get in his groove and help Cade work through some stuff? I mean, they got a massive opener with Georgia, and then you know then they got the ACC. I mean, so we'll see how that plays out. I'm interested to see the Georgia game, of course, because I think that's going to be the best defense that they face all year. But that has nothing to do with whether or not they make the playoffs or win the ACC, because they could lose that game and still win the ACC and make the playoffs. If you win your conference now, 12-team playoffs, you're in. If you're a Power 4. Sorry, Pac-12 is no more. So we'll see how that plays out. I think that game and the Florida State game are the two games that probably come to mind first, just because DJU's coming home. I would say coming home because he started at Clemson first. We'll see how that goes. But on the other side of the ball, Clemson has been consistently good, if nothing else. The defense is always, to me, seems like top 20, some years top 10, actually most years probably. Now, they have a challenge this year because they only return 49% of their production, which is only good for 103rd in the FBS. And in the ACC, the only teams they're ahead of in returning production is Georgia Tech and UNC. Now, while people talk about Dabo not, using the portal and all of that good jazz, I think they mostly mean that on offense, because recruiting hadn't been a problem on defense. I mean, the defensive front seven, look at the line, you got Peter Woods, TJ Parker, second-year players, and they got more 5 stars coming in. Got Barrett Carter, who I actually have always preferred, even though I felt like the guy they had last year, name's not whose dad played, and he played for their team now. I can't escape my mind right now, but he was super good. But I felt like Barrett Carter all around was just a better athlete. And then they got, talented freshman number 1 linebacker as of last year coming out of high school, Sammy Brown. I think from what I can tell, he's going to be the other, starter out there. You got Khalil Barnes at safety coming back. Got some young guys on the outside at DB, but they look to be making strides. And even though the returning production isn't high ranked in the FBS, Clemson is, like, again, had always had a good defense. I actually think they'll be one of the best defenses in the nation. Definitely, I'm thinking definitely in the top 2, if not best one in the ACC. Their front seven, I think, is going to be really good. While they may not have a lot of production, they have got a lot of talent. So just young, but I think they're going to be good. So I think the defense may have to, carry the weight of the brunt of the weight in the beginning of the season. And then as the offense comes along, get the kinks out, move it along. And then, hey, listen, even if they take a couple of bumps, again, like if they lose to Georgia and they take a bump or two, as far as close games, still winning in the ACC, by the time the mid-season get here, if their offense is rolling, if you can't score more than 25, 27 on Clemson, it might be a rough night for you. So I think Clemson is my favorite to win the ACC. I know everybody got Florida State. I just think Florida State's lost a lot, but we'll get into that in the Florida State preview. I think Clemson is definitely my favorite to win the ACC, and definitely be back in the playoffs. Tell me what you think of Clemson coming into the 2024 season, and where you think their weaknesses are or their strengths, and what games are you worried about or looking forward to, down in the comments. Definitely like to hear all your feedback, so let's hear it, man. It's another episode. It's the Fan Addicts. Coach I, we out.
We got it jumping like it's that valley. I call my dogs out the pound, let's go eat. Turn on the Fan Addict, let's have a debate. Who really hold down the Southeast from state to state? What team hungry gonna eat everything up off they plate?